I want to introduce Alex Grinch, our new defensive coordinator, safeties coach here to Sooner Nation. Feels like it's been a long time coming now, but certainly a hire that I'm just thrilled with. Kind of set out, here once I knew for sure that we were going to go a different direction and bring in a new defensive coordinator. It's kind of an interesting journey. You start getting calls from so many different people that have interest in working at a place like this, and you start a lot of different possibilities start swirling through your mind about what you want this defense to look like and what you think would be the right decision for this place. But in my mind, as I went through this process and vetted a lot of outstanding candidates, I really had no indecision on this. This was really, honestly, a pretty easy decision for me on a number of different levels. One, most importantly, a lot of guys that I trust in the business have had a chance to work with Coach Grinch, seen up close and personal the kind of man he is, kind of family he has, the impact that he has been able to have on defensive players, defensive units in a short amount of time. Some of the changes, especially going back to his career at Washington State, you see the immediate success that happened when he took over defensively, and have just always admired from afar the way that his groups play. Love what they do schematically, but more important than that, love the mentality that he's instilled in these players, and it's something that we very much believe in here, and I think will very much align us kind of with a very similar mentality, on all three sides of the ball. I felt like, special teams wise, looking at the whole group, I feel like special teams wise, we've made a big jump in that direction this year within our program. We all know that, we're excited to do the same thing defensively, and I think this hire is a huge step towards getting that done. So extremely excited to welcome him here. It's just felt like the right match from the very first time that we spoke on the phone, and so it's been fun getting to know him and his family over the last few weeks, getting out on the road recruiting. Our players are very excited about getting to work, as Coach Grinch is as well. And then I know you guys will be visiting here in a little bit with Roy Manning, who will be our new corners coach, and with Brian Odom, who will be our new inside linebackers coach. And after making the decision to hire Alex, I really kind of leaned back on when Coach Stoops brought me here 4 years ago, and the setup that he gave me to get this thing done, which involved being able to bring one position coach that I had a strong relationship, strong ties with, and Dennis Simmons, and then really it ended up being two because Bill Bedenbow, luckily for me, was already on staff, and we had already worked together and had that same type of relationship as well. And I, having been in similar shoes, I still remember how important that was to me, to have some guys in the room that I'd been in the fire with, and it also showed me that the head coach was very invested in what we were doing, not just simply by hiring me and saying, okay, we're going to run this system and do that, but when he's willing to do that for you, it shows that you're completely all in. And I wanted to do the same thing for Alex, and so leaned heavily on his input on these guys. And then as I got a chance to meet with both Roy and Brian, couldn't have been more impressed with them, their history, their backgrounds, how well they recruit, how well their players play. They just checked every single box, in addition to having a strong working relationship with Alex. And so everything's come together really, really nicely. I was excited today to have this staff in there kind of finally together all at once, and can't wait for this journey here defensively. So we'll let Alex make a quick statement here, and then you guys can fire away.
Well, excited to be here. This is, I think I made the comment when I first got hired. This is a one percenter, and there's a lot of programs that maybe make that claim, but this is the elite of the elite. And so when you have an opportunity to be at a place like the University of Oklahoma, that gets your antennas up. So from the very first time talking to Coach Riley, certainly excited and thrilled, as Coach mentioned, to have the staff that we have, and Coach McNeil, Coach Thibodeau, kind of round out that staff. And you got good coaches, good recruiters, and good teachers. You got a chance to be successful on our side of the ball. And so I think we did a good job of getting that in place. Thrilled to get started. thrilled to get with the players. Had an opportunity to visit with the defense. I guess it was Monday. Every individual meetings. Monday and Tuesday as the new coaches have come on. They've had an opportunity to kind of meet with those guys, get them on the phone a little bit, and we'll continue to do so, kind of as we build relationships and go. So, got a lot of work to do, but that's not unique to us. Every team in the country right now is working through their off season, and we got to have a real sense of urgency to kind of play catch up, if you will. We don't have guys 3 years in the system, 4 years in the system, and so we got to do a great job as teachers to get them geared up. But thrilled to be here and understand the importance of Oklahoma football to this state, and excited to bring my family out here and be a part of it.
Okay, we'll take questions for both Coach Riley and Coach Grinch. We'll start with John.
Lincoln, you mentioned a couple of times, seemed like a perfect fit. What was it about him that stood out? And how much did you communicate with Coach Leach about Alex? And then Alex as well, your formula on turnovers equating to wins. I want you to kind of get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think from the first conversation that we had, I felt like it was very much in line with the other parts of our program and just kind of big picture what the vision is for this place. And first thing I loved about him was, that every answer was about mentality. Scheme's great, scheme's important, and scheme was certainly a part of this process. But I think, we both agree that, the mentality, the team chemistry, what you build internally with your group is ultimately the difference makers in the kind of games that we expect to win here. And so his history, how aggressive his defenses have been. I love the fact that all those years at Washington State, they were towards the top of the country in tackles for loss each and every year, and they had very good players there, but it's not like they were playing with NFL players at every single position, and I just thought he did a remarkable job there. And then, talking to so many different guys, I actually honestly, this time around, this year, I did not talk to Mike about him. I had talked to Mike about Alex several times in the past, not when we had a job open, but just, watching what they were doing there and asking about him and just, normal conversations we'd had. I already knew what Mike thought about Alex, so that would have been a waste of about a 2-hour phone call. So I hung on that one. But no, Mike and then so many of the other guys at Washington State that have worked with him, people that I trust very much, the opinion was always the same, and it was always consistent, and it was, and then like I said, then having a chance to visit with him personally and get a feel for that, it made complete sense on every single level and address the issues that I think we need to address, and brings in a guy that I think is going to be an absolute difference maker for us.
Okay, Eric Bailey.
Yeah, Coach.
Follow-up.
Coach Smith.
Oh, sorry,
no,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Takeaways. We kind of coined the phrase takeaways equal victory, and so it stems from the fact that the sole purpose of the defense to be on the football field is to get the ball back to the offense. And for whatever reason, in other sports, no one seems to be confused that way. If you're playing bang on, you use other sports as reference. But in basketball, if you're defending a guy, you want to take the ball away from him. And so defensively, you want to contain yards. You obviously want to limit points. But the purpose behind every play in football is for the defense to get the ball back to the offense. And oh, by the way, the ball doesn't have any working knowledge of who it's supposed to be thrown to. It doesn't know that the quarterback is supposed to throw it to a receiver. It doesn't know it's supposed to stay in the running back's arms. And so if the ball doesn't know, then how on earth do we know? So that gives us every opportunity on every snap of football to get the ball back. And then it obviously affects possessions. And we did a study several years ago, and then essentially 24 takeaways equated to 9 wins regardless of any other statistic in football, whether offense, defense, total offense, scoring, defense, and you can name them all. But if you got to that 24, it's kind of like that magic number. So you see the impact. But in any event, yes, it controls possessions. Yes, it controls points. But I think it gives a singular purpose to every member of your defense on every down as to why we're out there.
Okay, Eric.
Question for Coach Grinch and Coach Riley. Coach Grinch, what you did at Washington State in 2015, taking that program over and kind of rebuilding it, do you use that as a similar blueprint here at Oklahoma? And also, Coach Riley, is your defensive staff set for 2019 now, and do you have responsibilities set for the coaches?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's parallels, but obviously different schedule, different people, different players, and all those things. So you draw from it? Yes. I mean, certainly from a confidence standpoint, it's not as if these are as you meet with the defense this past week. These are the things we're going to try at Oklahoma, and let's see if it sticks, type of thing. I mean, with an extreme amount of confidence, to the depths of my soul, I believe in the things that we do defensively, and so much of it, going back to that time. And I mentioned the defense this week. It's an effort-based defense. Effort's the greatest equalizer in sport, which means it also can go both ways. And so if you allow that individual across from you to play with more effort than you can have the fanciest scheme in the world, and it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. But so in any event, just understand the impact that way. Understanding that when you talk about takeaways and you make an emphasis of it, and I think where it's 24, 23, 28, 3 years running, that you get what you demand, and then you make it a big deal on a day-to-day from a practice standpoint. So no, certainly you draw from those experiences, but you don't allow yourself to be naive to say that you just can check those boxes because you did some of those things in your past.
Yeah. As far as the defensive staff, Alex is gonna coach our safeties. Roy will coach the corners. Brian Odom will coach the inside linebackers. Ruffin McNeil will coach the outside linebackers. Calvin Thibodeau will coach the defensive line. We still have some off the field positions, GA positions, all that we're in the process of. Not ready to make announcements on that yet, but the full-time on the field staff is set, yes.
Okay, James Hale.
Alex, if you don't mind talking about your defensive style, you talked about the takeaways, but everybody talks about how aggressive you are up front and some of the things. So if you get into that a little bit, what we'll see when you take the field against Houston?
Yeah, and we kind of use the phrase downhill approach, and really what we mean by that is being less reactionary. There's an element to it, obviously, defensively. The offense knows the play they're running.
Right.
Obviously, we have to react to where the ball is. So, I mean, that's football. But trying as best we can to put our guys in a situation that, an offense has to react to you, to a certain extent. Single gap defense in our front, so that the guys have an understanding where they need to be, kind of when they need to be there and how they got to get there. Much more emphasis on the how as opposed to the what. We from a coverage standpoint, we attempt as best we can to make receivers win. The game is space and speed in 2018, 2019 in college football. And so trying to do, from a coverage standpoint, put ourselves in a situation that we can eliminate, certainly match from a speed standpoint, and by doing so, try to do the best we can to eliminate, issues from a space standpoint. So, and you can do that structurally a number of different ways. And so we try to be multiple as best we can and put our guys in a situation that when you say downhill, they pre-snap, they have an understanding of where they need to be. We eliminate the gray, from as best we can. Again, the offense does a pretty good job of adding gray, so we don't, as coaches, it's important that we don't add more to it. So in any event, no, structurally it would be multiple, both in the front and on the back end, but kind of some of those elements in place. Aggressive in coverage, as mentioned, and then single gap defense in front.
Okay, we'll go to Jenny.
Hey Alex, two questions, and both are related to the air raid. The first being, you and Roy are going to coach the secondary together, which obviously is a huge part of handling these passing offenses. Just if you wouldn't mind, why was he a good fit for you in coaching the secondary? And then sort of a second question, you obviously were with Mike at Washington State coaching a defense on a team with an air raid offense. Does that present a different challenge, and does that help in any ways coming here to coach with this air raid offense?
Sure, just a lot of confidence in Coach Manning. We worked together for 3 years. Coach Corners at a high level at Michigan in his past. Had our nickels out there as well, which really there's commonality. Really, the nickel in the scheme was more same as from a corner standpoint in terms of the fundamentals, techniques, and those things. So I have complete confidence in him. He's an elite coach, an elite man, elite recruiter, all those things. You check so many boxes, and we've been in it. Like Coach said, you kind of been in the fire. You understand. He was there day one. Trying to change a culture, trying to change a program. He understands. So much of who we are and what we are. And as I mentioned, it's more the what and the who as opposed to, or she made the how and the what as opposed to just schematically and that. So excited, thrilled, absolutely thrilled if I was drafting, he was at the top of the draft board. So very excited to have Coach. And then defending again, I cringe a little bit to hear the air raid, because those are difficult days in practice, spring ball, fall camp, and all those things, and actually praying for some runs so you get a chance to defend them sometimes. But,
You get them here a lot more than you did at Washington.
I noticed that. I noticed that. I'll make sure before I quit the job. No, but it gives you a great barometer, kind of where you're at from a coverage standpoint, and so what as we looked at it, you say, well, if you're defending it more than anybody in the country, again, really, you're talking about spring football, fall camp, and the 7-on-7s and those things that guys do on their own. So you got a tremendous opportunity to if you're an elite passing team, to be elite defensively against it. If you're willing to not make excuses on a day-to-day basis. And so that was the biggest thing for us as a coaching staff, was saying, okay, we need to be willing to have a tough day and a frustrating day as we walk off that practice field, and not make excuses for our guys. Well, we're one of the tops in the country in offer, or in that case in passing. And so that makes it okay to get beat. It's okay to allow completions. It's okay to have a lack of success on a given day. And so once we eliminated that, and it took time, and again, you don't have time in this business, so it's got to happen very, very quickly. And obviously, schematically, you got to make sure that you're matching those things. You can't just be talk. But that was a big part of it. But you have an understanding coverage-wise. Okay, how do you handle these certain things? And it became a great challenge. And I think our last year there, I think we're top 10 against the pass.
Barry?
Yeah, Alex, from afar, did you pay any attention to what's been going on at Oklahoma the last couple of years? Specifically the defense and the way it struggled?
Not specifically, no. Obviously, from afar, obviously the elite success has been taking place. So on the national level, obviously you have a complete understanding of where this program is, and certainly excited about where it's going. But no, specific to one side of the ball, I did not.
Since you've been looking into the job and taking it, where do you see where this defense is on this day on January 20th?
Well, I think it's obviously a work in progress, and there's a challenge ahead. And where's that challenge stem from? Obviously, you're talking about in college football. It's hard to play defense in 2019, and what we have to be willing to do is not make excuses for poor performance that way. Big 12 is known for offense. I understand that, and have tremendous respect for the offenses and the coaches in this conference. And so where we're at today is a best way to put it, again, just a work in progress, and we got to make sure we get this thing installed. Trying to do very little from a previous season eval. I think that's a responsible thing to do. Most of the film that we watch, you kind of get your bearings in terms of the numbers of guys and jersey numbers, that is, and then seeing some of the guys that may have played in the past. But I think it's important that we have a clean slate, because we expect them to have a clean slate. What we can't do is waste a lot of time in the feel out phase where we're feeling them out or they're feeling us out. We got to make sure we dive into this thing, and so we're not wasting the day. We got to get there quick.
Okay, we'll go to Brandon.
Hey, you talked about first mentality, but then you talked about also checking off the boxes. When you get hired as a defensive coordinator, at what point did you feel that Roy Manning and Brian Odom were your guys? And the second question is when you go out to spring practice, do you go out there with no depth chart at all from the previous season, or do you just kind of feed off of what they did last year and just kind of go from there?
Yeah, in terms of coaches, I mean, I guess your mind wanders, or you think about some of the guys that you want to work with. When you have elite people that you've worked with, elite coaches that you've worked with, what you don't want to do is venture too far out from that. It's the knowing. It's knowing that you've been in the meeting on a Sunday after a poor performance, and those guys aren't the excuse makers. They're in it for the team, for the defense, for the team. They understand, again, day one install. They understand what a Monday game plan looks like, and all those things that just are exciting to have in the room. And so you know what you're getting, and so often in this business, there's a lot of good coaches out there, but until you work with a guy, some you don't know what you don't know type of stuff. So No, they were, again, if you're drafting, what you don't get to do, and obviously it had to be a good fit for this program, but thrilled to have both those guys. And the second part of the question?
Yeah, do you kind of use a baseline for last year's depth chart, or do you just kind of go in and just say everybody is just brand new?
Yeah, I think everybody, I mean, obviously you're going to put 11 guys out there with the one, so we got to put, we got to find who's going to line up with the one group, the two group, and everything else. But those depth charts can change every single day. So that'll be the message. I mean, a lot of the guys that line up, at least early on in the spring, or as we get into some of the walkthroughs and some of that are allowed previous to spring football, is you'll default to some of the older guys just because they've been out there. But the message to them is that day two depth chart can look completely different as day one. We won't wait till fall to make those adjustments. And ideally, as best you can, you want to have your best 11 guys out there, followed by the 11 best behind them. Now again, you can't play all linebackers, so you got to make sure positionally that you get this thing structured. But use the example that if you're one of the 11 best guys, we're not married to a position. So if you're a corner, we think you'd be the 11 best guy, and you're the third corner. Okay, maybe we'll put you at safety or inside linebacker. We'll put you down to rush linebacker spot, so on and so forth. So open to all those things.
Jason Kersey.
Yeah, Lincoln, why was it important for you to keep Ruffin on the staff and in an on-field role? And then for Alex, what will it mean to have a guy like that in the room?
Yeah, the first priority was absolutely just getting the defensive coordinator hire. And once we had that, and Alex and I were able to sit down and start piecing together a staff, I knew I had good guys on the staff. I mean, there was no doubt about that. Good guys, good coaches, and I didn't come in with some mentality of just blowing this thing up and just immediately scrapping everything we had and starting from scratch. But at the same time, I wanted it to fit. And as we went through it, Ruffin fit within Alex's scheme as we started talking about the staff layout. And then he brings a lot to this job that's very valuable for me too. And then, again, the trust factor, a guy that's been through this, all the things that I've said several times about him, certainly still there, and I think he has a great feel for the pulse of this team as well, and it made sense on a lot of different levels. And I had, Alex sat down with all those guys. I wanted to see, we talked earlier about how Jalen and I would hit it off when we sat down. I wanted to see if the same things happen, because you could, like Alex said, you can have great coaches, but they don't always mesh together the right way. And so anybody that we did keep, I wanted to make sure that they did mesh, and Ruffin and Alex did mesh as well as Calvin. And so kind of made for, it was kind of a good spot, I thought, where we had a couple of guys back that I think have done an outstanding job for us, and then brought in a couple of new guys that I think are going to be equally outstanding, and that fit Alex's, what Alex wants, and understand his system, and they have that comfortability. So I think it just made sense on every different level.
Alex, your thoughts about Ruffin and having him in the room?
Yeah, excited to work with this defensive staff, and probably the first thing that Ruff and I did was, both having been coordinators for Mike Leach, we got stories now. So to say we hit it off, he tells a better story than I tell. So I guarantee that. But in any event, just a great coach, great man. Echo everything that Coach Riley just mentioned. But thrilled to have him on with us. And again, just bring some probably experience, and again, those are unique guys to have, guys that have been coordinators, guys that have been head coaches. I mean, you don't get a room full of those guys very often, so it's very nice to have them on staff.
You'll go to Darren.
Yeah, Alex, you clearly stepped into a great opportunity here. I think your term was 1% when you began, and that being the case, opportunities like this also come with expectations, particularly given the shortcomings on defense the last couple of years in the program, and the fact that some see that as the thing that's kept this program from a playoff breakthrough, a national breakthrough. Are you aware of the expectations? And if so, how does that factor into your mindset as you attack the job?
Well, I am, and then you talk about one of the winningest programs in the history of college football. And I guess the key term, there's a lot of key terms there, but I guess the program. And so one of the things that Coach Riley and I talked about is you either have standards as a football program at a place like Oklahoma, or we're going to have standards on one side of the ball. We're going to have a lead offense, and then the other guys on the other side are going to do their best to I guess maybe not blow it. And so really the expectation is that there's a high standard at Oklahoma football. And so that's what, and one of my messages to the guys, in fact, on Monday, is when these guys signed on the dotted line to be Oklahoma football players, they understood the expectations and the standards. And certainly for me, I signed a different paper, but when I signed on, I understood there was expectations and signed on for very, very high standards. Again, not just for one side of the football, but for entire football program.
Okay, we'll stay on this side of the room, Cliff Brunt.
Yeah, Coach Grinch, this is for you. Jalen Hurts comes here, obviously a really talented guy, national caliber guy, comes in to play offense because he knows this is an established program. On defense, how do you plan to make this a destination place for the very best defensive talent?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, just as you look at the personnel, and I'll use this last class just as an example, and maybe just more knowledge of it, just in getting on board and watching some of those guys. Obviously, they had signed before I came on, but just there's a project here that guys want to be a part of, and that's obvious. And then the job the staff did, Coach Riley did, to bring in an elite group of guys in this 2019 class to be a member of this defense, despite the fact when those guys signed that there was not a defensive coordinator. I think that speaks to the want to and of guys on a national level to be a part of Oklahoma football. And so what we need to do is obviously make sure that we're giving them a product, that the future recruits give them a product that they want to be a part of. And that's our responsibility. But I certainly think that there'll be a lot of guys both in the state of Oklahoma and the state of Texas and on a national level that see what we're able to do program-wise that want to be a part of Oklahoma defense.
Okay, we'll go to Tyler Palmatier.
Hey Alex, I hope this is viewed as a fair question, but you've been part of a defensive resurgence before where they wanted to upgrade everything across the board, and you did well there. There's people who support the program here obviously want to know how quickly that can happen here. How quickly do you think it can happen here based on what you see, and what's just a reasonable expectation as far as next season goes?
Sure, and I think that a lot of what's said in a January press conference comes as a hollow promise. I mean, you can make a lot of statements, and again, it's very hollow this time of year. But I guess the message would be, and I think you used the term earlier, and I certainly did with the defensive staff this morning, is just urgency. We have a sense of urgency that's unmatched across this country. Everybody's trying to be better. I mean, that's what off seasons are for. That won't change a year from now. Okay, but on our part is we have to understand that we have to raise the bar very, very quickly. And we got to make sure it's one thing to raise it, it's a whole other thing to reach it. And so everything we do on a day-to-day basis up until spring football is to make sure that we don't waste a day of spring football. You get 15 days, and they're precious to everybody. They're precious every year. When you actually get to put the helmet on, put the pads on, the ball's out, here we go. But for us now, we have to make sure everything we do leading up into that is we can't waste the first 2 days of spring from an install standpoint or an effort standpoint to then all of a sudden, okay, we're starting to get it practice 3, for instance. And certainly it can get scary. All of a sudden, midway through spring ball, it starts clicking, for instance. And then we just wasted 6-7 days. Or we talk about, spring was good. We're starting down the road. Fall camp is going to be critical. We can't waste any time. And so urgency from Coach Wiley in the weight room. And everything we do from a meeting standpoint that's allotted to us over this next, I guess, month and a half or almost 2 months before spring ball starts is really our mentality is how can practice one of spring give us the best opportunity to take advantage of every single one of those days. And then obviously how do we build that through the summer, and then coming back fall camp, we can't midway through fall camp we start turning a corner. We can't waste that time. So probably a long answer, but the magic word is urgency, and we got to feel it.
Okay, time for a few more. Carrie?
Lincoln, I was wondering if you could talk about kind of when you first came to Oklahoma, just in the recruiting process, did you kind of have to, reteach yourself what you were looking for in terms of elite athlete versus maybe what you've been recruiting?
Get in the game with. from a recruiting standpoint. So now I remember being excited for me. It was the first time I had been in one of these 1%ers, and I remember walking into any school thinking we got a shot at anybody, and it was a great feeling. And then I think now just being able to look back on it 4 years later and some of the progress we've made in that area, I'm extremely proud of. And I'd tell you, even these 3 hires here today, certainly what they can do on the field, what they can do culture-wise was a big part of it. But as with any person that we hire in our program, from the lowest level job to the top level job, they better be able to recruit, and it better be important to them. And I felt that with Alex, and then looking back at Roy's history, looking back at Brian Odom's history, felt very strongly about these guys not only understanding the way we want to recruit, but helping us even further that. And I think they're going to do it. So yeah, it's you did have to learn, but yeah, it's fun when you can go recruit the best. We can do that right now. We're going to continue to do that.
Okay, Joey Helmer.
And Alex, kind of just what it was like, spending that time at Ohio State.
Sure.
Kind of seeing, that level of athlete, maybe even that depth that programs like this need.
Yeah, and to that, was thrilled to have an opportunity to work for Coach Meyer, one of the winningest, coaches in the history of our game, and so that was thrilling. I mean, when you're at a program like that, at a program in Oklahoma, you're talking about bigger, faster, stronger. The thing that you find out very quickly, those the ingredients to winning don't change. In terms of the attention to detail, the discipline, the effort, like I mentioned earlier. Personnel won't save you. You got to play a certain way. You got to play with extreme effort, regardless of who those body structures are, or regardless of depth. And that's what everybody's trying to build. And it's difficult to do. No, it's sometimes I guess maybe you need to have that experience to maybe just reaffirm some of your original beliefs in terms of what it takes to be successful.
Joey?
Yeah, just, excuse me, from a cultural standpoint, I think attitude defensively has been something that's been lacking. How do we go about, you guys have referenced mentality several times, just kind of changing the culture?
Yeah, and then I think I touched on it just the singular focus on every single down to get the ball back to the offense, get a purpose, I guess, behind every single play. I think is important. How do you change that? I think you emphasize it. I think you certainly applaud the good, and over the top applaud the good. And I think over the top you make it very, very clear when standards aren't met. And so that's not magic. But I think also too that you establish those things that the non-negotiables. It's a whole lot different to make a mistake scheme-wise as opposed to making a mistake effort-wise, because effort mistakes aren't that. That's a conscious decision to hurt your football team. And so how do you change it? You make that very, very clear that there's certain non-negotiables for us defensively that we're not asking you to participate in. That's the demand. And then, obviously from a teaching standpoint, everything else is something we can get corrected based on film. So I think that's it. It's just, understand there's a difference between the two, and applaud when it's good, because it will be good at times, and make it very, very obvious when it's not.
Okay, Eric G.
You mentioned the Big 12 being so good at offense, and OU certainly has the results in getting high-level offensive players, but right now defensively you don't have those results. And sort of piggybacking off Cliff's question, what is the biggest selling point defensively right now to those upper echelon kids as to why they should come here without being able to show them something tangible the way you can offensively?
Who's that for?
Either one.
I'll take that one for you. Yeah, I think it's an easy sell. The sell is, won this place. It doesn't matter what position you play. You're coming to play at one of the elite programs, great facilities, great people working with you, everything that you could ever want, a great university. The sell specifically on the field it's not the sell. The truth is we've, just got done winning 4 straight Big 12 championships. We've been in the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. We've been right on the doorstep of winning this whole thing, and we're really close to getting it done. And with this guy, we got one of the premier defensive coordinators in the country here right now that's going to make a huge difference for our program. we're even with some of the tough results we've had defensively, we've continued to get better recruits here the last few years. And once we show what we're getting ready to show, that's getting ready to even go to another level. I think we all believe that, and I think as evidence, Alex used the evidence of the players we were able to bring in without even having a defensive coordinator. I think that's very obvious, and so I think when those results do come on top of all the other great things at this place, then it's going to continue to get even better and better. So it's not difficult because it's the truth.
Okay, time for one last question. Jenny?
Hey Alex, the decision to have an inside and outside linebackers coach, has been 2 defensive line coaches the last couple of years. Does that speak to wanting to get more hands-on with the linebackers you do have? Does that speak to scheme and what we're about to see, just the why of 2 linebackers coaches?
Yeah, now with 10 coaches in college football, it allows you to, the student-teacher ratio to get adjusted that way a little bit. So it makes sense. I think allows for better use of meetings and better use of individual time in practice. So that's the extent of it.